So it's a sad day, and one that most of us Mets fans knew was coming for a long time. But we were just holding out hope, just maybe the Mets would bring him back. Instead, we got the news Jose Iglesias has signed a deal with the San Diego Padres.
Let's go, New York!
So, like I said, most of us knew Jose Iglesias was not coming back in 2025, but we thank him for the memories, his service with the team, and for that banger of a song that also exposed who knows how to dance and who doesn't. That's okay, Pete. That's why we love you. But it's fitting news given the debate in camp right now about who will be the utility man for this team. And it basically comes down to two players, either Brett Baty or Luis Angel Acuna. That after Nick Madrigal, who the Mets signed this offseason, fractured his shoulder and is done for the year. Maybe the shortest stint in New York Mets history. Let's get into the debate. Should it be Brett Baty or should it be Luis Angel Acuna to round out the Mets roster? Let's start with Brett Baty. The Mets selected him in the first round of the 2019 draft, and we had some really high expectations for him. He looked like he would be the third baseman of the future and was consistently ranked one of the top 100 prospects in baseball across multiple outlets ever since then. And we got even more excited in his big league debut when in his very first at-bat, he turned on this pitch and hit it out to right field for a home run in Atlanta against the Braves. And it looked like Brett Baty had officially arrived. Or not. Ever since then, it has been a roller coaster of a ride for Brett Baty. Up, down, up, down, up, down.
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. I did.
So far this spring, Baty has 2 homers and 18 at-bats and a .500 on-base percentage. More impressive, his OPS is above 1,300. And when you couple that with what he did at AAA last year, where he had 16 homers and an OPS above 850, fans, they're starting to buy in again. So here's the thing about Brett Baty. He is a former first-round pick. He got called up at the age of 23. And even though his numbers indicated that he was ready for the show, it still may have been just a bit too early of a call by the Mets. I'm not saying that they stunted his growth or that he still can't become a great MLB player, but to this point, the jury is still out until he can do it on a consistent basis. And I know everyone wants to reference his spring training stats. I get it, but go ahead, take a look at this headline right here. Pretty exciting, right? Well, that was from 2024 when Baty again had a great spring training and everyone started to drink the Kool-Aid. But maybe the most damning thing for his case to become the utility man for this role is that he lacks defensive versatility. Even though he got reps at second base in AAA last year, he's still learning the position, and he's never played shortstop or first base at the professional level. So while the offensive profile is still there for Baty, the lack of defensive ability does not exactly do him any favors. Meanwhile, last year, the Mets called Luis Angel Acuna up in September, and he had an immediate impact. Acuna, just like Baty, a top 100 prospect in the Mets system, and he had a pretty impressive showing. 3 homers, a .308 average in 39 at-bats for the team. Acuna profiles to be a legit bat at the big league level, and part of his offensive game is that elite speed. He's an absolute road runner, coming in the 95th percentile in sprint speed, making him a threat on the bases. But most importantly, Acuna came up as a shortstop in the minors, but can easily play second base. We saw it last year in the playoffs, coming in as a late-inning defensive replacement, but before that in September, he stepped in at short when Francisco Lindor went down with his back injury, and he was tremendous. He was worth 3 outs above average in 48 attempts there. So if you're asking me right now who I think is the best fit for this utility role, it's an absolute no-brainer slam dunk, Luis Angel Acuna. Look, I still believe in Brett Baty and think he could be a major part of this team moving forward. But putting him in AAA to start the season may not only be the best thing for the Mets, but for Baty's long-term future as well. If Baty makes the opening day roster, he's only going to be limited to a handful of at-bats per week. The Mets' plan right now is to have Jeff McNeil starting at second. If I'm the general manager or Carlos Mendoza, I'm not taking a single at-bat away from Mark Vientos after the way he emerged last year. So it looks like Baty might get, a couple of late-inning pinch hitting opportunities and maybe a spot start at one of those other two positions per week. If the Mets still believe in Brett Baty the way that I do, then the best thing they can do for him is to give him at-bats every day, and that happens in Syracuse, not in Queens. And let's not forget, this is a utility man role that the Mets are looking to fill. What does that mean? Late inning defensive replacement and pinch running opportunities, and that's exactly what Acuna does better than him. Not only that, but as it stands right now, the Mets don't have a backup shortstop. And we'd be foolish not to think that that injury to Francisco Lindor's back will just never pop up again. Should something happen to Lindor, trust me, I know there's no replacing his bat, but at least with Acuna, you'd get some pretty solid defense up the middle at one of the premier positions in baseball. For those reasons, I think it's an open and shut case. Acuna should be coming up north with the Mets when they break camp for opening day, and Brett Baty should be heading out to Syracuse. Now, that doesn't mean he's not going to get a shot at the big league level this year. If, God forbid, something happens to Mark Vientos or Pete Alonso, I'm knocking on wood, well, then he'll get his opportunity at one of the corner infield positions. But as it stands right now, to make the Mets the most well-rounded team possible for opening day, Acuna becoming the utility man for this team is definitely the way to go. What do you guys think? Should it be Luis Angel Acuna or Brett Baty for the utility position to round out the roster? Or, don't forget this guy, Ronnie Mauricio, who we haven't seen this spring. Could he be someone that ends up breaking camp with the Mets? Let me know in the comment section below. 21 days away from opening day. Let's go Mets.